Hi there. Welcome to Around the Table with Powerful Women. I'm Christy Daniels.
I'm Joy Caffrey.
And our guest today is Sunshine Broder. And I'm super excited to interview Sunshine.
I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to read some official information so that you can understand a little bit about who Sunshine is. So Sunshine is an on-air personality, an MC, a storyteller.
Yeah.
With more than 5 years of experience in the industry. You may know her from That's What She Said, NWA Fashion Week, or recognize her voice from Sunshine After the Dark.
I love that name.
I do too.
Yeah, we'll have to get into how that came about. Yeah.
Or many other events that she can be found hosting around Northwest Arkansas. Sunshine's day job is hairstylist and salon owner. She's owned Shine Salon on the south side of Fayetteville for 15 years.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
It's aging me. It's okay. It's okay.
She's a graduate from the U of A with a BA in drama. And Sunshine actually moved to Chicago to train at the world-famous Second City Improv Theatre, which sounds really interesting.
That was a good one. I also went to the Aveda Institute in Chicago. That's where I ended up doing hair, starting to do hair. So.
Very cool. There she graduated from the elite Conservatory program before moving back to Arkansas to call it home. And so Sunshine can be found baking award-winning pies,
Yum.
clogging, or most importantly, spending time with her Mini-Aussie named Penny. And yes, her real name is Sunshine. So welcome.
Thank you. And it's funny to hear that read out loud.
Yeah.
You know, as opposed to just like printing it out. I'm like,
Right.
oh yeah, that is who I am.
Yeah.
All right.
To me, it always sounds so impressive. Like when I'm reading this, I'm like, whoa, there's this.
It's sort of like Instagram. You know, I'm only giving you the highlights.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I hope that we could go do highlights and maybe talk about a little bit of obstacles.
Yes.
Yeah, and how we get out of those low lights and find ourselves back to center.
Yeah, because I think so much in life right now is we do see that highlight reel, and we're not seeing, behind the scenes, what it took to get there, which I find really inspiring to hear. So how did you get to Arkansas?
Well, I'm actually from Arkansas, so my parents moved here in the 70s in the Back to the Land movement. My father's from Brooklyn, my mother's from Dallas. They met in Dallas, blah, blah, blah. Moved back to the land of Stone County, and that is where I was born, in the middle of absolutely nowhere, and raised in the middle of nowhere.
With Stone County?
Stone County, so it's a Mountain View is the county seat.
Yeah.
And what Stone County has going for it is we like to call ourselves the folk music capital of the world, which might be a stretch, but we also have the Ozark Folk Center, Blanchard Springs Caverns. There's a lot of national forests there. It's a really beautiful place. It's not necessarily somewhere that there's a lot to do as a kid. Mm-hmm. I mean, I did clog. That's what I did. I was a clogger. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And how'd you go from clogging to drama? Because I can kind of see how drama can go into emceeing.
Right.
But what brought you into drama?
I decided by the time, inside my mind, by the time I could form words and what have you, I started taking ballet and dance, and all I ever wanted to do was perform. Mm-hmm. So even in the first grade, I went to a very small school. There were literally 20 people in my class, kindergarten through 12, a very small place. And I was like, well, we don't have theater or drama or anything. And I was like, how am I going to be an actress? I'm 6, And so I decided that I was putting on Hansel and Gretel. Aww. And I literally I cast the whole thing from my class. Yeah. I directed, and my mother helped me with the with everything, right? Of course, we had a set, and we got clothes and stuff, and we put it on at my house for all the parents, and then we put it on at school for all the students. And I was just convinced that a star was born at the, it was.
Our daughter Melissa did a similar path of putting things on at that very young age, and there was at the time we lived in Seattle, Washington, this gentleman, Peter Wallace, really believed in giving kids a stage to do that and to do their own directing.
Yeah.
And so he would host where kids could use the school stage and create their own plays and do just what you naturally did. Right.
Well, I think that like children naturally do that. Like you play at something, you know. And I guess I was just convinced that I was just going to play like I knew what I was doing.
Right.
I've kind of been
did.
right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, acting is pretending that you know you're doing all the time. Yes.
I like that definition.
Yes.
So, okay, so I have a quick question. I'll admit, I Googled you beforehand, right? And I put in your URL. And one of the links that came in had a birth date. I'll tell you about this later about the link. But it said July 22nd. Is that you? Or is that a different?
That's me.
Okay, so check this out. My granddaughter's birthday is July 22nd. And that makes you a Leo. And I was just listening to Channing Nicholas's new book.
Yes.
You Were Born for This.
Yes.
And I was listening to the Leo portion of this, and if it's not exactly what you're describing, how, you know, like just has got to be the center of attention, is, you know, born to perform and to be seen and to shine.
Yeah.
And I'm reading this about you, and I'm seeing this about you, and I'm seeing that at an early age you had that in you, and in the middle of Arkansas, like, you know, the backwoods of Arkansas, no stages, but you created it.
Well, I wanted it so bad. I was like, well, I guess I got to figure this out.
Yeah. So I love that you knew that, and you were willing to do what you know, in your heart of hearts, you wanted to experience, and you made it happen for yourself.
I think that it also helped that both of my parents were very supportive of me sort of expressing myself, you know. I'm an only child and lived in the middle, you know, the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere, and so like I had to figure out how to entertain myself, and so they had my back on that, which was great. So yeah.
So I took you on a side
No,
here.
it's fine.
So Joy, your question was, what was it? It was, how did you get from
from
how did
clogging
I get to drama?
Well, that was part of
that was about it. And of course there was nothing to be done there. I did, when my parents divorced when I was 11, my mother and I moved to Memphis. And she was very determined for me to get a better education and be exposed to more things. And there they had, oh my goodness, what was it called? Anyway, this really amazing theater in Memphis that I was involved with their summer programs, and that's sort of where I really started to try to use that. And which was great, but of course I went from Memphis back to Stone County to Memphis, Stone County. Yeah, but I knew by the time I was 6, I was like, when I go to college, I am going to get my degree in theater. And, and then I figured out who River Phoenix was, and I was like, and then I'm going to move to LA, and we're going to get married, and then he died when I was a senior in high school. So anyway, so how is that for an answer to that question?
That's good.
Yeah.
Are there any traits that you feel like you carry with you since then, maybe any just unifying quality that you see weaving throughout your life? And does it relate to the drama, or is there some other internal strength that you carry with you?
I think that, so being dramatic has its benefits, and it definitely has its downside. My father was one of those who was like, just go in the other room, when I, as you, teenager and prepubescent and all of that kind of stuff. But I think that the one thing that can kind of be a through line in my life as far as that is concerned is that I guess I wanted that enough that I would just make things sort of happen, and so I always either waited tables. I've owned my own business. I doing hair is sort of standing behind the chair and somewhere between being a therapist and being an entertainer.
Right. A performer.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just one of those things that has, it's been this great gift, because it ties in with like the storytelling and being able to communicate with people very easily. And I think that over and above everything in my life, that is probably, that's the through line. That's the gift that I've been given, is that I'm very much an empath and very.
I don't think I've met a hair cutter that wasn't an empath.
Right, you kind of right. If you're not, buddy, yeah, you should probably. Actually, you know what? You're probably better off because then you don't absorb everything. But by absorbing all of that, you also. I feel like I learn a lot from every person that I come in contact with. I mean, it's a lot to carry sometimes, you know.
In my healing work, I like to teach people that you don't have to carry it. And being an empath, it allows you to be sensitive and compassionate, but not responsible for whatever else is on there.
Then we'll have a class on that after this, okay? Because baby needs a little help with that. Yes, for sure. For sure.
So parents divorcing, and that's something to overcome in life. And I was wondering what are some of the other challenges that you bumped into that you had to find some resilience with?
I think that just, you know, nobody's perfect, okay? And so, like, while my parents were incredibly supportive, my father was highly critical, and my mother was this amazing beauty. And like and amazing and supportive, and she is brilliant. She is not just a pretty face. Sorry about that. Okay, so Kat is on. We're like, put it in check. Oh my God, she might listen to this, and then you're in trouble.
That's right.
Exactly. She's like, but I am really pretty, which that is true. I feel like sort of like going through my parents divorcing at 11, which is like this really pivotal age, and I hit puberty like nobody's business, was awkward and all of those things, and then moving to Memphis, Tennessee, where I was so smart in Stone County, and I was just like some kid in Memphis, which is fine, and which was great. It was a great challenge, but like I didn't understand like studying and like reading things and just like the things that we didn't really
into it.
And also, at that same time, my mother and father divorced, and my mother began to date a woman, which was not I was raised with around this woman and her former lover and their kid, and so like I was incredibly open to all choices in life.
Always relationships.
But there was a hiccup because my mother was afraid of how I might deal with it, and so she wasn't completely honest with me. And I, of course, knew what was going on, right? Kids are so intuitive. And so we had a challenge with that, which was where I finally was like, I don't care what you do as long as you don't lie to me. And so, like, that was like this really beautiful breaking point for my mother and I. We'd always been very close, but like anyway, it was a challenge. Let's go ahead and say it was a challenge, just because it was all of those things all at once. But what was the question? The question was what are some of the other challenges in life
you bumped into?
Oh my goodness. Learning how to go to school and learning how to learn, like that was a thing, and realizing that just because I went to drama school didn't mean that, you know, I was going to be Tina Fey tomorrow. That's not really a challenge. That's just reality. I think that I feel like I've made myself a note here, and I'm going to look at it for a second. I think that this is good. I was on a roll there, wasn't I? I think that one of the biggest challenges for me is understanding that I get to be in control of my actual own emotions and the drama and the feelings, and it's taken it. I mean, I still work on it every single day. But that I get to be in charge of like how I walk into a situation, whether I'm going to be open to it or if I'm just going to start on the wrong foot. And my father and I always had a challenged relationship just because, you know, just because my dad was like, and I was like, I just want you to love me. And the thing is that he loved me. He loved me. He just didn't like to put up with a bunch of trauma, strangely enough. But about 4 years ago, he was no longer, he had like gone through open heart surgery, cancer, a lot of things, and he wasn't really capable of taking complete care of himself. And so he sold his home and he moved into a little house back behind where I lived. And for about 2.5 years, I didn't live with him, but I was definitely his caregiver.
Wow.
And
it's a big role.
Yeah, and it was this, as much as it was so hard, it also was the thing that changed the dynamic in our relationship, so that I feel so much more complete and fulfilled and understanding of that. I think because like I always showed up and I was just like, oh my God, everything is so crazy and I just don't even know. He was like, oh, you are a mess. And then he moved here and realized that not only do I take care of myself and my business and my home, I also took care of him and his things and the doctors and the stuff, and I could change the light bulbs, and do you need me to drill that, and what do we need to
So
do?
he saw what you were capable of.
Yes.
And he was probably a little more vulnerable.
Exactly.
And allowing you to see him in a more transparent way.
Yes.
And it sounds like with your mom, that transparency is what made a breakthrough.
Yeah.
And maybe it was the transparency with your dad of him seeing you more clearly and you being able to...
Did you guys know this is a little like therapy?
Sorry.
No, it's great. Listen, I have not gone to see my therapist in a long time, so I am loving this. I needed this, for sure.
Your reframing and reflections, I think, both come natural to Christy and I.
Yeah, which is great. I feel like I do that when I'm on the other side of this, because like people in my chair, right? And I'm like, oh, sweetie, let me tell you.
I feel like going to a stylist is like therapy.
Yeah. I have a small theory about that I love, which is when you pick up a baby, right? Like you hold their head, you support their head. Yeah. And you think about being an adult and like who touches your head? Your mother has touched your head, your lover touches your head, and your hairstylist touches your head. And healers. Right? And healers. Exactly. Right. Yeah. And so when someone touches your hair or your head, it is automatically, you're like that baby where you're like, you're being supported. It's like you immediately are like, oh, I'm safe. Yeah. And I think it's like kind of tricky, but it's really cool. Yeah.
For me, when I'm doing my healing work and I'm stroking a client's forehead, I feel the Divine Mother coming right through, and they feel like they're being touched by the Divine Mother, and that there is something so safe and soothing, and I could fall back and trust this.
Yes, exactly.
And who doesn't like getting their hair washed by their hair cutter?
Actually, strangely, I watched someone here the other day who didn't like it, and I was like, okay, you're special. And I'm just gonna let you be. Exactly.
So one of the questions that we had kind of posed that I wanted to ask you about was, how do you define success and happiness? What does that look like in life, and how do you live it on your own terms?
Yeah, what does it look like externally and internally?
I think that success I think it can be measured in many ways for each individual, but I feel like for myself, being fulfilled, being happy with who I am, and being able to know that like where I am in my life and on the planet and with my relationships, that things are as they're supposed to be, which of course, right, I said earlier, we get to walk into that and decide it, but sometimes, it takes a while to get there, and I think that being able to be comfortable with yourself and not wrapped up in the daily struggle is the closest thing to happiness and success that you can. I definitely don't feel like it's measured in how much money I have or what car I drive or like, I feel like it's much more measured in the relationships and the the security that I have in those, that's what makes me happy and feel successful. I'm so fortunate. I have very good friends and a very good support group, and I feel like I could get through anything because of that.
Yeah, and that really I'm going to dig even deeper.
I'm ready.
Yeah, so in that, I've been talking about this actually with some of my clients recently, both about self-acceptance and security, and even the balance of security and freedom, and looking at those two. So what I'm hearing is the security in your relationships, and what I'm guessing is maybe because they're relationships you can trust, or the people that have your back, or what would your words be of what makes the relationships rich for you? What makes them give you that sense of security?
I believe that, especially as we're all so consumed with our adult life, right? Like I've got to do my job and I've got to do all of these things that I never feel like I have to I don't have, like that relationship is there and I don't have to be concerned with like, oh no, I didn't call you today. I haven't seen you in 4 days. There's no like guilt. There's no jealousy. There's no, like, those are two things to me that like, I just don't like it. Guilt, jealousy, and regret are things in my life where I'm just like,
not doing those.
Yeah. Because they do nothing to anyone but me and have no value to me. And so to me, the people that are the closest to me are the same in that. Like, I never have to feel like, I have so many examples, which is just too much, but it's like the people that are closest to me, like I have some people like that don't live here that I don't see or talk to forever, but we can just get on the phone and none of it matters. Yeah. That sort of sense of like, we will always be connected no matter what. Yeah. And that is, and also like, if all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, I gotta, like
I need something.
Yeah.
I need
like the day that my father died, I didn't put it out there, but one of my one of my sisters kind of did, not my real sister, but and one of my very best friends in Vegas literally just sent me a text message and was like, do you want me to get your flight for tomorrow or Saturday? Because we had talked, like, when my dad dies, I'm just coming to you and like living in your spare room for a week so I don't have to talk to anyone. And I mean, she didn't hear it from me. She just was like, I'll get your ticket. It was just handled. And like, beautiful. It just didn't have to, that's a serious sense of security. And then all of my friends around me, they called me the next day and they'd all gotten together and they cleared Dad's house for me. They were like, go get what you want and we'll clean it while you're gone. And just like, there's no question, and there's no question that I would do the same for them. Just
and
that
the beauty of that, you've had those kind of conversations, so they actually knew what you wanted. Right. And they listened, and they took it in, and they responded.
Yeah. I feel like being able to be transparent and to be as open and honest and vulnerable with people, which vulnerability is still probably my biggest challenge. But being able to do that is, I think, what makes those relationships possible. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're back to that communication.
Yeah,
piece,
exactly.
Right? The flow of communication.
God, you guys are good. Okay. Remembering what we were. You're coming. You're bringing it all full circle. This is great. Yeah.
Yeah. So what we haven't touched on at all is the fact that you are on the radio.
Oh yes.
Tell us how you got there. Yeah.
Okay, so
and I want to hear about the title of your
talk. Okay. Well, I'll tell you that in this. So like Sunshine After Dark. So some of my dear friends kind of approached me a few years ago, like 5 years ago, and they're like, "Hey, we're thinking about doing this thing where we do like an adult storytelling group. Would you be interested?" And I was like, duh. So, and it's a bunch of us who've like known each other since sort of junior high, off and on here and there, and are all just like, we like to like sit around and drink too much and we just kind of shit talk the whole time, And we've all done ridiculous stuff. So, we start doing That's What She Said. so from doing, which is like that the joke from The Office, yeah. Right? And it's so funny. So many people are like, so it's all women, and I'm like, no, it's not all women. I guess the majority. It's kind of 50-50, but. So that is this thing that we started doing, and we just sold out every show, and it was so amazing and so fun. And so then it became where I was sort of emceeing that. Well, we were asked to open for a comedian at George's on Valentine's Day 3 years ago. And we did that, and my story was Tenderoni, or How You Never Really Know Someone Until You Meet Them Face to Face, was the title of my story, which is kind of talking about Tinder, which is, a dating app. So I tell this sort of clandestine story on stage at George's, and the comedian approached me a couple of weeks later and was like, I've been asked to judge the air sex competition that's coming through town, and I'm not going to be very good at it, but I think you would be. And I was like, that sounds ridiculous. I'll do it.
Yeah.
Right? So I did that at Smoke and Barrel. Somebody there was from Comedians NWA. They asked me to judge their roast battles. And when I did that, I did it with this gentleman named Brandon Lee, who I'd met before in passing but didn't really know. And he is part of 3B Radio, which is on the X. And so we did that together, and then we did it another time. And one day I was laying in my bed at a 45-degree angle about a month or so later because I had vertigo and I thought the world was going to end. And I get this phone call through Messenger from Brandon, and I'm like, that's a butt dial. And then he does it again. I try to figure out how to answer it, and then I figure out how to call him back, and he's like, what's your problem? I'm not a millennial, and I make phone calls through Messenger. Anyway, so he was like, listen, we fired our morning guy, and I've pitched you to our new owner as our morning DJ. And I was like, I'm maybe a little messed up in that moment. And I was like, okay. And he was like, so I'm going to find out when we can meet with the owner and have a meeting and stuff. And I was like, okay. He's like, well, when I call again, answer. I'm like, all right. And I, of course, get off the phone. I'm like, this is BS. This is made up, So 3 days later, he called me. I missed the call. Called him back. And he was like, what day can you meet? I said, Friday. So I went with him and the owner. We drank a lot of bourbon at the Hive. And by the end of it, he was like, well, you're real funny. Let's see if we can make it work. And I'm like, okay. And now I was the morning person. So my show is called Sunshine in the Morning.
Okay.
Right, no irony there. And then because of ratings and because morning shows are generally not just one person, and they're kind of dad jokes and fart noises, and that's not really me.
I didn't know this. This is new territory for me.
Right,
I just thought you were saying they're more newsy.
I was gonna just say that I only listened to NPR before I got this job, right? Right, and I was just like, I had no idea what I was doing, so I was sort of thrown into the fire. But long story short, I'm not necessarily morning radio unless I had a group of people with me, so we can be more chatty. But so they've moved me to evenings, and that's been about 3 months. And so honestly, I'm trying to, because I've been working on emceeing stuff, and I would like to also do my own podcast. I decided that I would sort of move the name into my actual handle, which on Instagram, which is Listen to Sunshine. And so it's Listen to Sunshine After Dark.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So that's how the name came about. Mm-hmm. And Listen to Sunshine came about because I think I'm a real smarty pants, and my whole life I always start everything with listen. And my friends will even look at me before anything, they'll be like, listen. So Listen to Sunshine. That's how that was born. And so I was just trying to kind of keep a little fluidity and sort of be able to brand myself a little bit by changing the name to that. Mm-hmm. The After Dark is obvious, but
it's sweet. It works.
There's a little hint of a Renaissance woman there, right? You've got, you're doing hair, you're doing emceeing, you're hosting different shows, and you're also on the radio, and who else, imagine the other places we'll get to listen to you, right? So how do you keep all of this kind of going? How does this work for you?
To be 100% transparent, I am not doing a great job at time management currently. So I had gotten to a place where it was working pretty well for me because I went to sleep at 8:30 at night, got up at 4:30 in the morning, the radio was done, I went to the salon, and then I just went home and went to sleep. And now I had no social life, but I had my jobs handled. Now with the switch, it's a little harder because I get up and I haven't utilized my morning yet. That's the problem that I need to do. I need to go back to that a little bit. But I get up, do my thing, go to the salon, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I have to hurry to get to the radio station. So I'm...
And not too many salons start earlier, like to make your day
exactly.
earlier.
And now I, of course, can set my own hours, but not a lot of people... Like during the day is not the prime time because people want to come like basically after 3 o'clock, right? If it's after school, it's after their job, they can get out of work early, that sort of thing. And it's really put a crunch on me being really incredibly organized, which I've never really been anyway, but this is really, I'm more like, well, no, let's just see. So of course, right, today, I end up like having to cancel people and rearrange some things so that I can get here, but it was like, it should have been fine, but hair is, it's a mystical beast and you never know what's really going to happen. So
It's an artistic process, right?
Yeah. So what could be an hour could be 3. Yeah. Sometimes.
Yeah. We have to roll with it sometimes.
Yeah. Time management is my downfall. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or and maybe we could reframe that in some way, maybe not in this moment, but getting to like, let's explore how I can play with time in different ways, or
bend space and time.
Yeah, that Einstein time, as Gay
relative,
Hendricks calls it. Yeah. In fact, I think we're actually out of time here.
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, we
went too fast.
I know. This has been great. I know.
And I thank you. Is there any way, if you would like people to get in touch with you, what would your favorite way for them to do that be?
You can follow me at Listen to Sunshine on Instagram, and also I'm just about to. I have my website done, but I haven't launched it, and it's sunshinebroder.com, and and sunshinebroder@gmail.com.
Okay.
And if we wanted to listen to you on the radio, when would we do that?
I am on 104.9 The X from 6 to 10 p.m. weekdays. And now there's no way to stream it outside of that time, but you can stream it at rocksnwa.com, or there's an app for that. And it's New Rock 104.9 The X. So, yeah.
Hopefully you'll have a few more listeners.
That's awesome. I know. Thank you, ladies, so much for having me.
Yeah.
This is. I know. I'm like, well, we'll just have to do this again in some other format. I know.
Okay, we didn't even make it to the Second City in Chicago.
You know what? It's okay.
Yeah.
That's just fun stuff.
Well, we'll wrap it up with our toast.
Okay.
And I'm going to improv here because my glass is missing. Here is to a soulful, joyful, and edgy life. Thanks for watching and listening.
Thank you so much.